The stepmother punishes the twins by withholding food for 3 days for trying to run away from home. Locked in their room, they cry silently, weak and frightened. But the millionaire, the girl's father, returns earlier than expected and sees everything. At that moment, he makes the decision that will change their lives forever. Before listening to this incredible story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more exciting tales. The afternoon sun cast long shadows on the marble floor of the entrance hall when Victor Allianz turned the key in the lock of his mansion. The silence that greeted him seemed strange, almost palpable. He had returned 3 days earlier than expected from his tour of Europe, where his orchestral compositions had been acclaimed by critics. He was exhausted, but satisfied. The longing for his twin daughters, Helena and Chiara, just 9 years old, had hastened his return. "Girls? Rose?" she called, placing her carry-on bag on the entryway console. No answer. Only the echo of his own voice bouncing off the walls decorated with family photographs and music awards. Victor loosened his tie and walked towards the stairs. That's when he heard it. A sharp scream followed by cutting words coming from the upper floor. "Do you think your father has time for this nonsense? He's an important man. If it weren't for me managing everything, you two wouldn't have even half of what you have today." Olivia's voice, his current wife and former manager, echoed down the hallway. Victor climbed the stairs silently, each step revealing more of the scene unfolding in the girl's bedroom. "But Mom left it for us." It was Helena's soft voice, always the braver of the two. "Your mother is dead, and I'm the only mother figure you have now. As long as you're under this roof, you will follow my rules." Victor stopped in the doorway, observing without being noticed. Helena stood with her small fists clenched, while Chiara huddled in bed, hugging a worn teddy bear. Olivia held a music box in her hand, the same one that Anna, his late wife, had left for the girls. "This is a child's toy, and you need to grow up," Olivia continued, her long, elegant fingers gripping the delicate object. "Studying is more important than daydreaming about old songs." "Is there a problem here?" Victor finally spoke up, causing all eyes to turn to him. "Victor!" Olivia recoiled in surprise, her expression instantly shifting to a polished smile. "We weren't expecting you so soon." The twins ran to their father, hugging his legs. They were identical in appearance, wavy brown hair, almond-shaped eyes, but distinct in temperament. Helena, always the defender, the protector. Chiara, sensitive and introverted, more like her mother in her artistic genius. "Dad!" they exclaimed in unison, as if his presence represented salvation. Victor knelt down, embracing his daughters. He immediately noticed that they were both thinner, with subtle dark circles under their eyes that didn't suit children their age. "How are my little musicians doing?" she asked, trying to keep her voice light, although a growing unease was settling in her chest. "We were just discussing how to organize study time," Olivia interjected, placing the music box on the dresser. "The girls need discipline, Victor. You know how important that is for their future." Victor watched his wife intently. Olivia Lyman had entered his life like a force of nature 2 years after Anna's passing. Initially, as his manager, she had reorganized his career, secured important contracts and international tours. The marriage came 6 months later, almost as a natural consequence of their professional proximity. For the girls, then 7 years old, she was presented as a new chance to have a maternal figure. "I'm going to settle into my room and then we can talk," he replied, stroking his daughter's hair. "Is Rose home?" A brief flash of irritation crossed Olivia's eyes. "It's on the market. We're not waiting for it any longer." Victor nodded, leading his daughters out of the room. "How about you show me what you've learned on the piano while I've been away?" The girls exchanged hesitant glances, something Victor couldn't help but notice. Chiara was the first to speak, almost in a whisper. "We haven't been practicing much, Daddy." "Formal study time first, fun later," Olivia finished, following them down the hallway. "I'm implementing a more suitable routine." In the music room, Victor sat at the bench of the grand piano, with one of his twins on either side. His hands moved across the keys, producing light notes that soon blossomed into a complete melody. a composition he had created for Anna when the girls were born. Chiara closed her eyes, letting herself be carried away by the music. Helena stared intently at her father's hands, as if she wanted to memorize every movement. Olivia remained in the doorway, arms crossed, a shadow of displeasure veiling her perfect face. "Do you remember this song?" Victor asked. "It's Mom's song," Helena replied promptly. "She used to sing us to sleep," added Chiara, her voice almost a whisper. Victor smiled, continuing to play. "Your mother was an extraordinary pianist. You inherited her talent." Olivia cleared her throat, interrupting the moment. "Victor, we need to talk about the tour in Asia. The contract has arrived and there are details that need to be reviewed. Can we see this tomorrow? It's urgent. They need an answer within 48 hours. Victor sighed, looking at his daughters with a silent apology. "We'll continue later, okay?" The girls nodded, but their eyes said otherwise. There was a silent plea there, something that Victor, in his exhaustion and preoccupation with his career, couldn't fully interpret. In the library, Olivia presented him with a folder of documents. Her efficiency was one of the qualities that had most initially attracted Victor. She had a gift for organizing chaos, for transforming possibilities into certainties. 3 months in Asia, starting in 2 weeks, she explained, pointing to the calendar. Japan, China, Singapore, then Australia. Those are the biggest fees you've ever received, Victor. 2 weeks? I just got back, Olivia. It's the music world. You know how it works. She touched his face gently. Think about the girls' future, the legacy we're building for them. Victor looked at the contract, the impressive figures, the opportunities, but something bothered him, a feeling that he had overlooked something important. Are the girls all right? He asked abruptly. Olivia seemed disconcerted by the change of subject. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? They seem downcast, quieter. They're growing up, Victor. They can't be dependent on you forever. Olivia softened her tone, moving closer. I'm just trying to prepare them for real life. A life that won't always be filled with applause and admiration, like the one you provide them. The sound of the front door opening interrupted the conversation. Soon the robust figure of Rose, the governess who had cared for the girls since birth, appeared in the library entrance. "Mr. Victor, what a wonderful surprise," exclaimed the woman with a genuine smile. "The girls must be so happy." "Rose," Victor smiled, rising to greet her. "How are things here?" Before Rose could answer, Olivia interjected, "Everything's in perfect order, isn't it, Rose? The girls are following their study routine, just as we agreed." Something in Rose's gaze caught Victor's attention, a hesitation, perhaps an unspoken concern. "Yes, ma'am," Rose finally replied, but her tone lacked its usual liveliness. "Rose, could you prepare a special dinner to celebrate Victor's return?" Olivia asked, with a clear suggestion that their conversation should be private. "Of course, ma'am, with pleasure." When the housekeeper left, Victor turned to Olivia. "Is there something I should know about what happened while I was away?" Olivia sighed, as if the question were a test of her patience. "Victor, you're tired from the trip and seeing problems where there aren't any. Everything is exactly as it should be." That evening, during dinner, Victor attentively observed the dynamic between Olivia and her daughters. The girls ate in silence, responding only when directly questioned. Rose served the dishes efficiently, exchanging discreet glances with the twins. "And how are ballet classes going?" Victor asked, trying to liven up the conversation. Helena and Chiara exchanged quick glances, before Helena replied, "We haven't been going to class, Dad." Victor frowned. "Why? You all loved ballet." "We decided to focus on academic studies," Olivia explained, helping herself to some wine. "Ballet is a distraction. They need excellent grades to get into good schools in the future." "They are 9 years old, Olivia. It's never too early to build a solid future." Olivia smiled at the girls, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "Isn't that right, dears?" The twins nodded silently, their eyes fixed on the plates. After dinner, Victor insisted on putting his daughters to bed, something he hadn't done in months due to constant travel. In the girls' room, while helping them with their pajamas, he noticed purplish marks on Helena's arms. "What is this?" he asked, gently touching the mark. I fell during physical education, Helena replied quickly, pulling up her pajama sleeve to cover her arm. Victor looked at Chiara, who looked away, climbed onto the bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. Are you sure? You know you can tell me anything, don't you? We know, Dad, Helena replied, hugging him. We're really okay. But as he kissed them on the forehead and turned off the light, leaving only a bedside lamp lit between the two beds, Victor couldn't ignore the feeling that something was deeply wrong in that house. The music that had once filled the rooms with joy seemed to have been silenced, replaced by a dissonant chord that he still couldn't fully identify. In the hallway he found Rose, who was waiting with clean towels. Rose, I need you to tell me the truth, Victor whispered, turning away from the girls' room. Is something going on with Helena and Chiara? Rose hesitated, her eyes revealing an inner conflict. Mr. Victor, Rose, Olivia's voice called from the end of the hallway. When you're finished tidying the girls' room, I need you in the living room so we can discuss the week's menu. The housekeeper nodded, casting one last meaningful glance at Victor before turning away. That look confirmed her suspicions. Something was wrong, something everyone seemed afraid to mention. That night, while Olivia slept beside him, Victor stayed awake, mentally reviewing every detail since his arrival. The marks on Helena's arms, Chiara's unusual silence, the veiled fear in Rose's eyes, Olivia's insistence on maintaining a rigid routine. His mind drifted back to the moment he met Olivia. She had appeared in his life as a solution to the chaos that had ensued after Anna's departure. Efficient, determined, practical. Everything he, lost in his grief and with 2 young children to raise, needed at that moment. Marriage came as a natural extension of their professional partnership. Victor needed someone to help him with the girls, and Olivia seemed the logical choice. But now, watching her sleep, he wondered how well he really knew her. And more importantly, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake leaving his daughters in her care during his long absences. With this unease, Victor decided he would keep a close eye on things over the next few days. If something was truly wrong, he would find out. And he would protect his daughters, no matter the cost. What Victor didn't know was that his decision came too late. In Helena and Chiara's hearts, fear had already taken deep root. And in Olivia's heart, a plan was already in motion, a plan that threatened to destroy the fragile harmony that remained in that family. In the days following Victor's return, a silent tension hung over the mansion. No matter how hard he tried to reconnect with his daughters, something or someone always interrupted. Olivia would show up with urgent documents to be signed, international calls that couldn't wait, decisions about the upcoming tour that needed to be made immediately. You can't postpone this trip, Victor, Olivia insisted, as they strolled through the extensive garden of the property. It was a Sunday morning, the only time Victor had managed to escape his commitments to spend time with the twins. It's Asia, for the first time. Your music conquering a new continent. Victor watched Helena and Chiara a few meters ahead, picking flowers under Rose's watchful gaze. There was something different about the daughters, a caution in their movements, as if they were measuring each action, each word. Maybe I could take the girls this time, he suggested. They've never been to Japan. It would be an incredible cultural experience. Olivia laughed, a metallic, joyless sound. And who would take care of them while you were at rehearsals, interviews, performances? Don't be naive, Victor. Children need routine, stability. That's exactly what I provide them here. But I feel like I'm missing important moments. Victor paused, turning to face his wife. They're growing up without me. It's the price of success. Olivia touched her face with cold fingers. Anna would understand this. She was an artist too. The mention of Anna made Victor tense. It was rare for Olivia to speak of her late wife, and when she did, there was always a note of resentment in her voice. Anna put the girls first, he replied more harshly than he intended. Olivia's eyes darkened, but her smile remained, a perfect mask. And look where that got her. Before Victor could answer, Helena ran up to them, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. Daddy, look what we found for you. Victor knelt down, accepting the gift with a genuine smile. They're beautiful, my love, thank you. Chiara helped choose the colors, Helena explained, glancing over her shoulder at her sister, who remained beside Rose as if afraid to approach. Helena, your hands are dirty, Olivia observed, her tone instantly harsher. And look at your dress, completely stained with grass. Rose, how could you allow this? The housekeeper approached, taking Chiara's hand. It was just a bit of innocent fun, Ma'am. I can clean the dress, it won't be stained. It's not about the dress. It's about discipline, Olivia retorted. Girls from good families don't behave like wild animals in the garden. Victor saw Helena's smile fade, her small hand squeezing the flowers tightly. It's all right, Olivia. It's just kids playing on a Sunday. He stood up, placing a protective hand on his daughter's shoulder. Why don't we all go get some ice cream? There's that ice cream shop downtown that you all love. The twins' eyes lit up, but the enthusiasm was quickly extinguished by Olivia's icy stare. Impossible. We have lunch with Maestro Felipe at 1 p.m., did you forget? And the girls have math tutoring this afternoon. Classes on Sundays? Victor asked, surprised. Chiara is having difficulties, Olivia explained. Helena also needs to revise to keep her grades high. Victor looked at Chiara, who kept her eyes downcast. Is it true, my angel? Are you having trouble with math? Before Chiara could answer, Olivia intervened. She's shy about admitting it, but the latest report cards clearly show it. Rose, take them inside to clean up. We need to get ready for lunch. Rose nodded, though Victor could see the reluctance in her movements. Helena handed the flowers to her father with one last look before following the housekeeper back to the mansion, Chiara silently beside her. You're too lenient with them, Olivia commented when the children were out of reach. That's why I need to be firmer when you're not around. Someone needs to set boundaries. Victor felt a growing unease. There's a difference between setting boundaries and stifling their childhood, Olivia. Easy for you to say, showing up every now and then with gifts and fun. I'm the one who deals with the daily reality, with schoolwork, commitments and tantrums. Victor looked at the bouquet in his hands, the small flowers already beginning to wilt. I never realized you resented my work so much. It's not resentment, it's realism. I built her international career practically single-handedly. I know how demanding she is. I'm just saying that you can't have it all, global stardom and a constant presence in your daughters' lives. Lunch with conductor Felipe Carmen was filled with conversations about the upcoming tour, collaboration opportunities, and the names of theaters and concert halls that Victor could barely keep up with. His thoughts were with his daughters, who had stayed home with Rose for their supposed math lesson. When they returned, the mansion was silent. Victor went straight up to the girls' room, finding them engrossed in books and notebooks, Rose watching over them from a nearby chair. How was class? She asked, noticing her daughters' tired faces. Productive, Rose replied, but there was something in her eyes, an unspoken message. Did Chiara understand the subject matter? The girl nodded without lifting her eyes from her notebook. Helena, however, looked directly at her father. When are you going to travel again, Dad? The seemingly innocent question carried a weight that Victor couldn't ignore. In 2 weeks. Why, my love? Helena exchanged a quick glance with her sister. You're welcome. Just so we know. That night, after the girls were put to bed, Victor went to his office to review the Asian tour contract. The words seemed blurry, his mind persistently returning to his daughter's strange behavior, Olivia's constant interruptions and Rose's meaningful glances. A light knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. Rose entered, carrying a tray of tea. I thought you might need something to clear your mind, she said, placing the tray on the table. Thank you, Rose. Victor indicated the chair in front of him. Please, have a seat for a moment. The housekeeper hesitated, casting a nervous glance at the half-open door. Mrs. Olivia is in her room taking a bath, he explained, as if he could sense her apprehension. Even so, he closed the door before sitting down. Rose, you've been a part of this family since the girls were born. Anna trusted you more than anyone else. Rose nodded, her eyes already moist at the mention of her former employer. Mrs. Anna was an angel. She loved those girls more than anything. That's why I need you to tell me the truth. What's going on in this house when I'm away? Rose wrung her hands in her apron, visibly nervous. "Mr. Victor, I swore to Mrs. Anna that I would take care of the girls, that I would protect them, and I have tried, truly." "What do you need to protect them from, Rose?" Victor's voice was gentle but firm. "Mrs. Olivia has her own methods of parenting." Rose chose her words carefully. "She believes in strict discipline, in consequences for every small mistake." "What kind of consequences?" "Restrictions on privileges, extra study hours, confinement to the room." Rose hesitated. "Sometimes physical punishments." Victor felt a chill run down his spine. "Physical punishment? She hits my daughters?" "Not exactly knocking, sir. She—" Rose stopped when she heard a noise in the hallway. She quickly stood up. "I must check if the girls are sleeping well." The housekeeper left hurriedly, leaving Victor with more questions than answers and a growing sense of horror. He stared at the contract on his desk, the lavish tour that would take him away from home for 3 months. For the first time in years, he questioned his priorities. The sound of the telephone broke her reverie. It was her friend Theo, a doctor who had cared for Anna during her illness and who maintained a close relationship with the family. "Victor, I'm so glad you answered." Theo's voice sounded worried on the other end of the line. "How are the girls?" "Strange, distant. Why?" There was a pause. "Helena called me last week crying. She said she was scared but hung up before I could ask her what she was scared of." Victor felt his heart race. "She didn't mention any of that." "I tried to call back several times, but Olivia always said that the girls were busy or that Helena had made up the whole story to get attention. That doesn't seem like something Helena would do." "That's exactly what I thought. That's why I'm calling. I thought you should know." After hanging up, Victor remained motionless, staring at the door through which Rose had disappeared. Fear had settled in his chest, like a dense shadow threatening to swallow all the remaining light. He decided he would confront Olivia that very night. But when he got to the room, he found her asleep, or pretending to be asleep. The next day she left early to deal with tour-related matters, leaving him alone with the girls and Rose. Victor took the opportunity to spend quality time with his daughters. He took them to the park, then to a movie theater, attentively observing each reaction, each exchange of glances between them. There was a silent code there, a communication he couldn't fully decipher. It was during an afternoon snack, in a cafe far from the center, that Helena finally opened up a little. "Daddy, can we not come home today?" she asked, playing with the straw of her milkshake. Victor tried to keep his voice calm, though his heart was racing. "Why? Wouldn't you want to go home, my love?" Helena looked at Chiara, who remained silent, her eyes fixed on the table. "It's just that it's more fun when we're with you. No rules all the time." "What kind of rules does Aunt Olivia impose when I'm not around?" Helena hesitated, biting her lip. "Rules about everything. When we can speak, what we can eat, how we should sit. If we disobey—" Her voice faltered. "What happens if you disobey, Helena?" Victor leaned down, gently taking his daughter's hand. "We go without dinner, or we're locked in a dark room sometimes." She looked at her sister again as if seeking permission. Chiara finally looked up, and Victor saw in her eyes a fear that no child should carry. "Sometimes she hurts," Chiara finished, her voice almost inaudible. "Not with her hands, with her belt, or she pinches us really hard until we're bruised." Victor felt a wave of nausea and fury. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "She said you wouldn't believe us," Helena replied, "that you'd say we were lying to get attention, and that if we told anyone it would be worse later." "And Rose, does she know all this?" "Rose tries to protect us," said Chiara, "but Aunt Olivia threatens to send her away if she interferes." Victor took a deep breath, trying to control the anger growing inside him. How could he have been so blind? How could he not have noticed what was happening in his own home? "Listen, my darlings," he said, holding both their hands. "You are the most important thing in my life. More important than any song, any concert, any tour. I promise I will protect you. No one will hurt you again." The girls looked at him with a mixture of hope and skepticism, as if they had already heard too many unfulfilled promises. That night, when they returned home, they found Olivia in the living room, her face a mask of staged concern. "Where were you? I called your cell phone several times," she exclaimed, rising from the sofa. "The girls have homework to finish." "The lessons can wait," Victor replied with a calmness he didn't usually feel. "Girls, why don't you go with Rose to her room? I need to talk to Olivia in private." Helena and Chiara obeyed quickly, casting worried glances at their father as they climbed the stairs. "What's going on, Victor? You've never neglected their education like this before." "I think the question is what's going on in this house when I'm away," he replied, keeping his voice low but firm. Olivia's face showed a brief sign of surprise before she recovered. "What are you talking about?" "The excessive rules, the punishments, the fear my daughters have of you." Olivia laughed, but the sound was cold, calculated. "Children have fertile imaginations, Victor, especially when they want attention. Helena has marks on her arms. Chiara can barely look me in the eye. This is not my imagination. Children get hurt playing. And Chiara has always been shy, you know that." Olivia approached, gently touching Victor's arm. "I think your guilt about always being absent is making you see problems where there aren't any. Is Rose imagining things too? And what about Theo when Helena called him crying?" Something shifted in Olivia's gaze, a flash of anger quickly suppressed. "That call was a misunderstanding. Helena had a nightmare and got scared." "Enough with the lies, Olivia." Victor pulled away from her touch. "I know what's going on and I won't let it continue." "And what are you going to do? Cancel the tour, ruin your career, all because of a few childish tantrums?" Olivia crossed her arms, her tone now clearly defensive. "These girls need discipline, Victor. The world out there isn't going to treat them like princesses just because they're the daughters of the great composer Victor Alliance. There's a difference between discipline and abuse, and what you've been doing is abuse." Olivia's face hardened. "You know nothing. While you're out there being flattered and applauded, I'm the one who keeps this house running, who ensures your precious daughters receive a quality education, who manages your career. My career isn't worth my daughter's suffering. It's easy to say that now. But who pulled you out of the hole after Anna died? Who rebuilt your image, secured contracts, and made your name known internationally? You owe me everything, Victor." The truth in Olivia's words hit him like a physical blow. In fact, after Anna's departure, he had sunk into depression and alcoholism, neglecting both his career and his daughters. Olivia appeared like a lifeline, reorganizing his professional life and restoring his sense of purpose. "You're right," Victor conceded. "I owe you a great deal professionally, but that doesn't give you the right to mistreat my daughters." "I don't mistreat them," exclaimed Olivia, raising her voice for the first time. "I'm shaping them for the real world, a world that you, with your artistic romanticism, seem to be completely unaware of." Victor stepped back, seeing Olivia in a new light. "The Asian tour is cancelled. I'll call the agent tomorrow." "You can't do that. The contracts have already been signed, and there are significant penalties." "I will pay the penalties. My priority now is Helena and Chiara." "And what are you going to do? Play the role of full-time father? For how long, Victor? Until you get bored? Until the next irresistible offer?" Olivia laughed, a sound devoid of joy. "I know you better than you think. Your music will always come first." "Always?" Victor felt the weight of those words, the questioning of his ability to truly change, to put his daughters above everything else. But thinking of Helena and Chiara's frightened faces, he knew he had no choice. "You're wrong, Olivia, and I'm going to prove it." As he climbed the stairs toward the girls' room, Victor didn't notice Olivia's calculating gaze, nor did he hear when she picked up the phone and dialed a number. "Marco, that's me. I think we're going to need to implement Plan B sooner than we expected." The following morning, Victor woke up early, determined to make radical changes in his life. He had slept in the guest room, unable to share a bed with Olivia after what he had discovered. His first phone call was to his international agent, informing him of the cancellation of the Asian tour. "Have you gone mad?" The agent's voice conveyed pure disbelief. "We're talking about legendary theaters, Victor. Suntory Hall in Tokyo, the Sydney Opera House. This is the pinnacle of your career." "I have urgent family matters," Victor replied firmly. I will pay all contractual penalties. Does Olivia know about this? She assured me 2 days ago that everything was confirmed. Olivia is no longer responsible for my career from now on. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Victor, this is serious. You're jeopardizing professional relationships built over years. Some things are more important. After hanging up, Victor called Theo, asking him to come to the mansion as soon as possible. He needed a trusted friend, someone who knew the girls and could assess the situation with a medical eye. Going down to the kitchen, he found Rose preparing breakfast, her face tense and worried. "Good morning, Rose. Are the girls awake yet?" "No, sir. Neither does Mrs. Olivia." "Great. We need to talk." Victor sat down at the kitchen table, indicating the chair opposite him. "I want you to tell me everything, Rose. No holds barred. What happens in this house when I'm traveling?" Rose glanced nervously at the door before sitting down. "It starts as soon as you leave. The rules change. Mrs. Olivia sets strict schedules for everything, studying, meals, even going to the bathroom. Any deviation is punished." "What kind of punishments?" Rose took a deep breath. At first it was small things. No dessert, no TV, but it got worse. She locks them in a dark room for hours. Sometimes a whole day, no food, no water. Once Chiara wet the bed out of fear and... Rose's voice faltered. Mrs. Olivia made her sleep on the wet mattress all night as a lesson. Victor closed his eyes, feeling a physical pain as he imagined his daughters going through such humiliation and fear. "Why didn't you ever tell me, Rose? Why didn't you call me?" "She monitors all the calls, sir, and she threatened the girls, saying that if they told anyone, they would be sent to a boarding school abroad, far away from each other." Rose wiped away a tear. "I tried to protect them as best I could. I would secretly bring them food when they were being punished. I would turn on a small light in their dark room." "And the marks I saw on Helena's arms?" "Pinching. Mrs. Olivia has this technique. She pinches and twists the skin. It doesn't leave obvious finger marks, just bruises that could be mistaken for ordinary bruises." Victor felt his stomach churn. "How long has this been going on?" "It started subtly after you got married. It gradually got worse. In the last 6 months, since your European tour, it's been almost unbearable." "6 months?" Victor shook his head, devastated by his own blindness. "And nobody noticed?" "The school?" "Mrs. Olivia is very careful. The marks are always in places covered by clothing. And the girls are isolated. They don't have close friends." Rose hesitated. "There's something more. Mrs. Olivia has recorded things." "Recorded? What do you mean?" "She puts recording equipment in the girls' room, in my room. I think she's looking for material to incriminate me somehow, or to have control over what is said." A shiver ran down Victor's spine. "This ends today, Rose. I'm getting the girls out of here." "Where to, sir?" "I have that cabin by the lake, 2 hours from the capital. It belonged to my parents. I'll take the girls there until I decide what to do next." Rose nodded, visibly relieved. "When?" "Right now, as soon as Theo arrives to assess their condition. Want to document everything." The sound of footsteps on the stairs interrupted the conversation. Rose quickly stood up, returning to preparing breakfast, while Victor grabbed a cup of coffee, trying to appear casual. Olivia entered the kitchen, impeccably dressed in a navy blue suit, her hair perfectly styled. "Good morning," she said, as if the argument from the previous night had never happened. "Already making decisions about the tour so early, Victor?" "The tour is cancelled," he replied bluntly. Olivia froze momentarily before forcing a smile. "Don't be ridiculous. You can't cancel appointments of this magnitude." "I can, and I already did. I called the agent a few minutes ago." Olivia's smile faded. "You're going to ruin everything we've built." "No, Olivia. You've already ruined what really mattered." Victor put the cup down on the table. "And it's not just the tour. I'm completely restructuring my life starting today, beginning with our marital situation." Olivia's eyes narrowed dangerously. She dismissed Rose with a curt gesture, waiting for the housekeeper to leave the kitchen before approaching Victor. "You're making a terrible mistake," he whispered, his voice heavy with menace. "Do you really think you can just discard me and move on?" I built Victor Alliance. Before me you were just another self-pitying alcoholic songwriter, and I will be eternally grateful for the professional support. But that doesn't justify what you did to my daughters." Olivia laughed, a cold sound that didn't reach her eyes. "Those girls are spoiled and manipulative, just like their mother was. Anna always knew how to make you dance to her tune. Now her daughters are following the same path." The mention of Anna in that way made Victor's blood boil. "Don't you dare speak of her like that. Why, because she was perfect? The brilliant pianist, the devoted mother, the irreproachable wife?" Olivia's tone was venomous. "You placed her on such a high pedestal that no one could ever reach her, not even you with your pathetic devotion." Victor took a deep breath, refusing to be provoked. "This conversation is going nowhere. I will take the necessary legal steps for the divorce. In the meantime, the girls and I will move temporarily." "You can't take the girls out of this house," Olivia said, her voice suddenly controlled. "Legally, I'm just as responsible for them as you are. Any judge will grant temporary custody when they learn of the abuse they suffered." "Abuse?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "What evidence do you have besides the fanciful stories of 2 children and a resentful maid?" At that moment, the doorbell rang. Victor felt relieved to hear Rose greeting Theo at the entrance. "The evidence is in my daughter's bodies and in the testimonies of reliable adults. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a guest." Theo Mueller was a middle-aged man with kind eyes behind thin-rimmed glasses and a calm demeanor that always reassured children. He hugged Victor in the entrance hall, immediately sensing the tension in the room. "What happened? From the tone of your phone call, it seemed urgent." "It's about the girls. I need you to examine them. We suspect abuse." The doctor frowned, his expression becoming serious. "Abuse? By whom?" Victor nodded toward the kitchen where Olivia was still standing. Theo understood immediately, nodding discreetly. "Where are they?" "Still sleeping. Let's wake them up." Upstairs, Rose was already in the twins' room, helping them get dressed. Upon seeing Theo, the girls ran to hug him. He always brought small gifts and told funny stories during his visits. "Uncle Theo!" exclaimed Helena, hugging him around. "The waste." "My little musicians," Theo smiled, kneeling down to be at their level. "How are you?" The girls exchanged hesitant glances, unsure how to respond in their father's presence. "Everything's fine," Victor assured them. "You can talk to Uncle Theo about anything. He's here to help." Theo conducted a gentle but thorough examination, documenting every mark, every bruise, while casually chatting with the girls, gaining their trust so they would reveal more details. Victor watched from a distance, each new discovery increasing his anguish and determination. When the exam was over, Theo asked to speak with Victor privately. In the office, his expression was serious. "It's definitely abuse, Victor. Physical and psychological. The pinch marks are evident. There are signs of mild malnutrition, and the emotional trauma is clear in the way they communicate, especially Chiara. What should I do?" "First, remove them from that environment immediately. Then, complete documentation. I've already started, but we need official photographs, reports, and of course, ongoing psychological support." Victor nodded, his decision reinforced. "I'll take them to the cabin by the lake today. Could you visit us there?" "Sure. I'll organize my schedule to be available." "And Victor," Theo placed a hand on his friend's shoulder, "you couldn't possibly know. Don't blame yourself." "I should have realized. I was so absorbed in my career." "What matters is that you're taking action now. The girls need your support, not your guilt." When they left the office, they found Olivia in the hallway, seemingly casual, although her eyes revealed that she had probably tried to eavesdrop on the conversation. "Dr. Theo, what a pleasant surprise," she said, her tone feigning cordiality. "I hope it's nothing serious with the girls." "Just a routine visit," Theo replied coldly. "Olivia," Victor interjected, "the girls and I are going to spend a few days at the lake cabin. Rose will join us." "Are you taking my stepdaughters out of the house without my consent?" Olivia's smile remained frozen, but her voice had a steely edge. "I'm taking my daughters to a safe environment. You will receive updates from my lawyers. This is kidnapping, Victor. I have legal rights over those children." "Not when there is evidence of abuse. Theo commented, in his professional tone. Olivia looked from one to the other, her mask of control beginning to crack. You can't do this. You don't know who you're dealing with. Actually, I'm starting to realize exactly who I'm dealing with, Victor replied, walking past her toward the girls' room. And that's why we're leaving here immediately. While Victor and Rose quickly packed bags for the twins, Olivia remained in the hallway watching with calculating eyes. There were no more arguments, no attempts to physically stop them, just that cold, assessing gaze, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. In less than an hour, Victor's car was loaded with the essentials for a few days. The girls settled into the back seat, Rose beside them, while Theo followed in his own vehicle. This isn't over, Victor, Olivia said, standing in the doorway of the mansion as they left. You can't just discard me like a failed musical draft. Victor didn't answer, speeding the car through the property gate. In the rearview mirror, he saw Olivia picking up the phone, already dialing numbers with determination. The journey to the cabin was silent at first. The girls, still processing the sudden change, looked out the window with thoughtful expressions. Gradually, as they moved away from the capital towards the countryside, the tension seemed to lessen. "Where are we going, Daddy?" Helena finally asked, breaking the silence. "To Grandpa and Grandma's cabin by the lake. Do you remember it?" Chiara nodded shyly. "The wooden house with that swing in the tree." "Exactly," Victor smiled, relieved to see a spark of excitement in his daughter's eyes. "We'll stay there for a while, just the two of us. Isn't Aunt Olivia coming?" "No, my love, just us, Rose, and sometimes Uncle Theo comes to visit." Helena and Chiara exchanged glances, a silent communication that Victor had frequently noticed between them. "Can we take the piano?" Helena asked. "Unfortunately, not the big one, but we have that upright piano in the cabin, remember? It's not as well tuned as ours, but we can manage." The mention of music brought a genuine sparkle to the twins' eyes. Victor realized how much time had passed since he'd seen them truly excited about something. As they left the city behind, the landscape transformed. Buildings gave way to open fields, then to a more wooded area, until finally they reached the dirt road that led to the lake. The cabin, built by Victor's parents decades ago, was a rustic but cozy structure, with 2 bedrooms, AEE, large living room with a fireplace, a simple kitchen and a veranda that projected over the tranquil waters. When they finally arrived, it was already past noon. Theo was waiting for them, having arrived a little earlier and already opened the windows to ventilate the place. The girls ran to explore the place, rediscovering corners and objects from previous visits, when Anna was still alive, and the family spent their holidays there. Rose immediately took charge of the kitchen, preparing a simple lunch while Victor and Theo chatted on the veranda, watching the twins who were now playing near the edge of the lake. "Thank you for everything, Theo. I don't know what I would do without your support." "How long have we been friends?" 20 years. I was there when you met, when the girls were born, when Anna—" Theo paused, aware of the pain those memories still caused. "The important thing is that I'm here now too. I never imagined it would come to this. Olivia seemed so competent, so strong. People with controlling tendencies often are. They know exactly what image to project to the outside world." Victor watched his daughters. Helena was collecting shells by the water's edge, while Chiara was drawing shapes in the damp sand. There was a lightness in their movements that he hadn't seen in a long time. "How could I have been so blind, Theo? How could I not have realized what was happening?" "You were dealing with your own grief, Victor. The loss of Anna, the sudden responsibility of raising 2 children alone, the pressure of your career." Olivia appeared, offering solutions, organization, stability. It was natural to trust her. "But the girls, children of this age often don't know how to express what they're feeling, especially in abusive situations. The fear of not being believed, the threats, the manipulation, all of this silences them." Victor ran a hand over his face, feeling the weight of guilt. "What do I do now? How do I help them overcome this?" Time, constant presence, professional support, and above all, unconditional love. Theo smiled, watching the girls. They are resilient, Victor. With the right environment, they can fully recover. Lunch was served at the rustic table on the veranda, overlooking the lake. For the first time in a long time, Victor saw his daughters eat with appetite, even asking for seconds. Rose smiled, serving them generously, while telling stories of when they were babies, and Anna sang to them as she lulled them to sleep. After the meal, Victor found the old upright piano in the living room, covered by a protective sheet. He removed the cover, revealing the dark wood instrument, somewhat worn by time but still functional. "It's out of tune," he commented, experimentally playing a few keys. "Still, it's music," Helena replied, approaching shyly. Victor smiled, making room for her on the bench. "Want to play with me?" Helena hesitated, glancing briefly at the door, as if she expected Olivia to appear at any moment to reprimand her. "Everything's fine, my love. Here we can play as much as we want." The girl sat down beside her, placing her small fingers on the keys. She began a simple melody, one of the first Victor had taught her. Chiara also approached, leaning on the piano, her eyes following her sister's movements. Gradually the music filled the cabin. Victor let Helena lead, only accompanying her with soft chords. When the melody ended, Chiara asked to try as well. "I forgot some parts," the girl admitted, embarrassed. "It's okay," Victor assured her. "Music never completely abandons us. It's always here inside." He gently touched his daughter's chest, waiting to be rediscovered. That afternoon, as the sun began to set over the lake, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Victor felt for the first time in years that he was exactly where he should be. Watching his daughters rediscover music, play, and freedom, he knew he had made the right decision, even if it was late. What he didn't know was that, in the mansion they had left behind, Olivia was in full swing. In her personal office, surrounded by papers, and with several telephones at her disposal, she was weaving a complex web of allies and strategies. "Yes, Marco, I need you to come immediately," she said on the phone. "The situation has spiraled out of control, but we can still recover." On the other end of the line, Marco, a music producer, whose name had been gradually erased from major productions due to scandals and erratic behavior, replied anxiously, "He really cancelled the Asian tour. That's crazy." Victor has always been sentimental and easily manipulated. Those children have him wrapped around their little finger, just like their mother did. "What do you need me to do?" Olivia smiled, a cold gesture that didn't reach her eyes. "First, we need to pinpoint exactly where they are. Then, create a compelling narrative. Victor can't simply abandon his commitments without consequences. His reputation, his credibility, everything is at stake. And what about the abuse allegations? If they become public, they will be refuted with concrete evidence. I have everything documented, Marco. Every interaction, every supposed punishment. I can prove that they were just normal disciplinary measures, distorted by spoiled children and a resentful governess." After hanging up, Olivia made another call, this time to Luca, an accountant who managed part of Victor's finances and who secretly owed Olivia significant favors. "I need a complete inventory of Victor's assets, especially lesser-known properties. Cabins, country houses, anywhere he might be hiding." "That's irregular, Olivia. Without his authorization. Would you prefer that I mention to the audit committee those minor accounting manipulations we did last year, the ones that saved your career?" A heavy silence followed on the other end of the line. "I'll figure something out, but I'll need time. You have 24 hours. As night fell, two parallel realities unfolded. In the lake cabin, a family slowly began to rebuild, seeking harmony after the chaos. In the mansion, a rejected woman meticulously planned her revenge, determined not to lose control over the musical and family empire she considered partially hers by right. The battle had only just begun, and its reverberations promised to reach far beyond the tranquil waters of the lake, where Victor and his daughters had momentarily found refuge. The first few days at the lake cabin established a gentle rhythm, a routine built not on rigid rules but on natural needs and spontaneous desires. Victor would wake up early, make a simple coffee in the rustic kitchen, and spend the first hours of the morning on the porch, composing in his notebook while watching the lake and waiting for his daughters to wake up. Helena was usually the first to get up, joining her father with her hair still disheveled and her eyes sleepy. She would sit quietly beside him, resting her head on his shoulder while he worked. Chiara would appear a little later, always bringing some drawing she had made the night before or right after waking up. Rose prepared a substantial breakfast, insisting that the girls needed to regain the weight and energy they had lost during the months of dietary restrictions imposed by Olivia. The twins ate with renewed appetite, especially when Rose made pancakes with fruit syrup, a dish that had been banned in the mansion for being considered an unnecessary indulgence. The mornings were dedicated to light study, with Victor temporarily replacing formal schooling. Mathematics, literature, science, everything approached creatively, often connected to music or the nature that surrounded them. The afternoons belonged to freedom, walks by the lake, swimming in the shallower areas, collecting stones and shells, drawing outdoors. The nights were filled with music. The old upright piano, after being tuned by Victor, had become the center of family activities. The twins relearned pieces they had been forced to abandon, while Victor accompanied them, sometimes adding improvised harmonies, transforming exercises into musical games. Theo visited them regularly, monitoring the girls' physical and emotional recovery. It was during one of these visits, about 2 weeks after their escape from the mansion, that he brought news from the outside world. "Olivia is moving quickly," Victor informed them as they walked along the lakeshore, far enough away that the girls, who were playing under Rose's supervision, couldn't hear them. "She filed for temporary custody, claiming you're mentally unstable and kidnapped the children." Victor stopped, picked up a flat stone and threw it into the water, watching it skip several times before sinking. "I'm not surprised. What's the legal basis for it?" He claims that his sudden cancellation of the tour, the abrupt move to an isolated location, and the children's withdrawal from school are evidence of erratic behavior, possibly related to unresolved grief over Anna. "And what about the abuse that we documented?" She counters that any marks are the result of normal play between children, and that Rose, out of resentment after being reprimanded for negligence, fabricated the accusations to protect her job. Victor shook his head, incredulous at Olivia's ability to distort reality. "And how did you find all this out? Do you have contacts in the courtroom?" Theo adjusted his glasses, a gesture he always made when he was worried. Agnes Sallon. The detective, the one who investigated that negligence case at the hospital last year. Yes, she now works in the Child Protection Department. When she learned about the case involving her daughters, she took on the investigation herself. Theo hesitated. "She was a close friend of Anna's at university." Victor nodded, vaguely remembering Anna mentioning a college classmate she'd been in contact with. "So she's on our side." "She's investigating impartially, as she should. But knowing Anna and having briefly spent time with you all on a few social occasions, she has suspicions about Olivia's version of events." "What does she recommend?" "Make the situation official. You need a lawyer, Victor, and the girls need to be heard by professionals specializing in child abuse cases. Informal statements to your doctor friend won't have the same legal weight as an official assessment." Victor watched his daughters from a distance. Helena was building something with twigs and leaves, while Chiara drew in the damp sand. They seemed so fragile, and yet so resilient. "I don't want to put them under any more stress, Theo. They finally feel safe here. I understand your concern, but if we don't act proactively, Olivia could obtain a court order forcing the girls' return, at least temporarily. That's what we want to avoid at all costs." Victor sighed, running a hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration. "I didn't imagine she'd go this far. I thought that with the divorce looming and the evidence of abuse, she would simply give up." Theo placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Olivia built her identity around being your wife, your manager, the perfect stepmother to your daughters. You're taking all of that away from her. People like her don't give up, they fight back. What does Agnes suggest as a first step?" She'll come here tomorrow for an initial assessment. She'll bring a child psychologist. The process will be gentle, tailored to the girl's needs. Theo looked toward the twins. The sooner we start building the case officially, the stronger we'll be when it inevitably goes to court. That night, after the girls had fallen asleep, Victor remained on the balcony, gazing at the dark waters of the lake under the moonlight. Rose joined him, bringing 2 cups of tea. "Dr. Theo seemed worried today," she commented, sitting down in the chair next to her. "Olivia is moving her pieces, Rose, faster than we expected." The governess sighed, her wrinkled hands gripping the cup. "I always knew she wouldn't give up easily. From day one, I saw how she looked at the girls, not with love, but with ownership. How did I not realize that?" "You were vulnerable, Mr. Victor. After Mrs. Anna left, you were devastated. Anyone offering help, organizing, would have seemed like a safe haven." Victor took a sip of his tea, feeling the warmth of the drink contrast with the cold that had settled in his chest. "Do you think I'm doing the right thing now, Rose? Abandoning everything to be with them?" "If I may be so bold, sir, I think this is the first truly right thing you've done in years." Rose smiled gently. "Girls need their father, not the famous composer, not the international artist, just their father. I have so much to make up for. Then begin now. Every day is an opportunity." Rose stood up, picking up Victor's empty cup. "And if I may offer one more piece of advice, those girls have music in their blood, just like you and Mrs. Anna. Music has always been the path to their souls." Victor remained on the balcony long after Rose had retired, the housekeeper's words echoing in his mind. Music, the language he had shared with Anna, that he had passed on to his daughters, but that he had somehow allowed to get lost amidst the success and the tours. The next day, as promised, Agnes Sallin arrived at the cabin accompanied by a child psychologist named Fiona. Agnes was a tall woman with an upright posture and attentive eyes that seemed to absorb every detail of her surroundings. Her brown hair was tied back in a strict bun, and her expression, though professional, had a gentle quality when she addressed the girls. "They look just like Anna," she whispered to Victor after being introduced to the twins, "especially in the eyes." Victor nodded, feeling the familiar pang of longing at the mention of his late wife's name. "Did you know Anna well?" "We shared an apartment for 3 years at university. She played piano until late. I studied criminology until dawn. It worked perfectly." Agnes smiled at the memory. "She talked a lot about you even before you were together. That composer who's going to revolutionize contemporary music," she'd say. The girls were taken by Fiona to an individual session in one of the rooms, adapted to resemble a play environment with art materials, dolls, and other therapeutic resources. Agnes took the opportunity to talk to Victor and Rose, gathering detailed information about the situation. "What worries me most right now isn't just the custody request," Agnes explained, consulting some notes in her file. "Olivia is building a public narrative. She's been making insinuations to the music press about your mental state, Victor, suggesting that you're sabotaging your own career due to an emotional breakdown." "That's absurd," Victor protested. "For us, yes. But for those who only know their public persona and suddenly see an artist at their peak abruptly cancel an international tour to isolate themselves in a cabin, her narrative finds fertile ground." "And does this affect the custody case?" "Indirectly, yes. Public perception influences even the most impartial judges. Furthermore," Agnes lowered her voice, "I have information that Olivia hired music producer Marco Limen to help her." Victor frowned. "Marco? He was practically banished from the industry after that royalty misappropriation scandal." "Exactly. A desperate man, resentful of the industry that rejected him, and with little to lose. A dangerous type of ally." The conversation was interrupted by Fiona's return, whose professional expression could not completely hide her concern. "How was it?" Victor asked, standing up anxiously. "The girls are extremely intelligent and articulate." "For their age," the psychologist replied, sitting down, "and the bond between them is impressively strong. They've developed an almost self-contained communication system, particularly during periods of isolation." "What kind of system?" asked Agnes, her professional interest clearly piqued. "A language based on touches, knocks, and movements. very sophisticated. Helena explained that they created this when they were put in the dark, as they described the punishments of isolation. They knocked on the walls to confirm each other's presence and developed codes for common words and phrases. Victor felt a deep pain imagining his daughters, frightened and isolated, creating a way to connect through the walls that separated them. From a professional standpoint, Fiona continued, there are clear indicators of psychological trauma consistent with prolonged abuse. The fear of making mistakes, hypervigilance, the constant need for approval. Particularly in Kiara, there are signs of the onset of an anxiety disorder that will require ongoing therapeutic attention. And what about the credibility of their accounts? Agnes asked. If this goes to court, the accounts are consistent, detailed, and include elements that children would rarely invent. The way they describe the punishments, the specific threats used to silence them. I would testify, without hesitation, to the veracity of these accounts. Victor covered his face with his hands, feeling a mixture of relief at having professional evidence and anguish for his daughter's suffering. What do we do now? We need to formalize all of this, Agnes replied. Statements, forensic photographs of the remaining marks, complete psychological evaluations. And you, Victor, need a lawyer specializing in family law. I'm preparing the official report for the department, recommending that temporary custody remain with you while the investigation continues. While the adults chatted, Helena and Kiara played in the garden near the cabin, seemingly absorbed in their own activity, but in reality, listening attentively to the adults' conversation through the open window. Is Aunt Olivia going to take us back? Whispered Kiara, her little face contorted with worry. Helena, ever the protector, squeezed her sister's hand. No, Dad won't allow it, and we have Rose and now Dr. Theo and that policewoman who was a friend of Mom's. But Aunt Olivia always gets what she wants. This time it's different, Helena insisted, though her own voice betrayed uncertainty. Dad is different. He saw what she does. He believed in us. The twins fell silent when they saw Fiona approaching. The psychologist sat down on the grass beside them, admiring the small structure of twigs and leaves they were building. Is it a nest? He asked, with genuine interest. It's a house for the lake fairies, Kiara explained, her voice almost inaudible. The fairies need a safe place, Helena added, where no one can hurt them or put them in the dark. Fiona nodded, understanding the metaphor without needing to be pointed out. And how do you know if a place is safe for fairies? The girls exchanged glances, their silent communication in action. Music, Kiara finally replied. Fairies only appear where there is music. That's why they never showed up at the mansion, Helena added. Aunt Olivia didn't like it when we played. She said it was useless noise. And here at the cabin, have the fairies already appeared? Kiara smiled, a rare gesture that lit up her face. Last night when Daddy played Mommy's song on the piano, I saw a tiny light through the window. Helena hugged her sister protectively. Kiara always sees things that nobody else sees. Mom used to say she has a special eye for magic. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of a vehicle approaching along the dirt road leading to the cabin. Everyone turned, alarmed by the unexpected visitor. Victor stood up quickly, positioning himself protectively on the porch. A sleek, obviously expensive black car pulled up next to the cabin. Victor felt a wave of relief when he recognized the driver, Aaron, his longtime lawyer, primarily responsible for contractual matters in his career. Victor, Aaron greeted, adjusting his impeccable suit as he stepped out of the vehicle. I received your message yesterday. I came as soon as I could. The introductions were made, and soon the group of adults was gathered in the cabin's living room, discussing legal strategies, while Rose took the girls for a walk by the lake, away from the disturbing conversations. Olivia is playing hardball, Aaron explained, opening his briefcase on the rustic table. She's already secured a preliminary hearing for next week, without her presence, I might add, which is procedurally questionable. Her former status as a businesswoman gives her a certain amount of influence in some circles. What kind of influence are we talking about? Agnes asked in her professional tone. The kind that comes from knowing secrets, doing favors, and keeping a detailed file of every potentially compromising professional interaction. Aaron looked at Victor. Forgive my frankness, but Olivia built her career knowing exactly where the figurative bodies of the music industry are buried. Does this matter in a custody case? Theo asked. It matters when those connections can influence public opinion, pressure authorities, and create a narrative that favors their side. Aaron adjusted his glasses. Furthermore, she's questioning the validity of her marriage to Victor, claiming he never got over his grief over Anna, and that the marriage was essentially a business arrangement in disguise. That's absurd, Victor protested. Though a pang of guilt gripped him, there was a seed of truth there. His marriage to Olivia had never had the depth, the genuine connection he had shared with Anna. We need a coordinated counterattack, Aaron continued. The psychological evaluation of the girls is crucial. Agnes, your official report as a child protection investigator will be fundamental. Theo, your medical observations will need to be formalized. And Rose? Rose is our main eyewitness, Agnes interrupted. She experienced the abuse daily, tried to intervene, and documented it in her own way. Exactly. Olivia will fiercely attack your credibility, so we need to strengthen your testimony with corroborating evidence. The meeting stretched on for hours, with strategies being devised, documents prepared, and statements drafted. When Rose returned with the girls, it was almost sunset. The twins seemed tired, but their eyes sparkled with the freedom of the afternoon outdoors. After dinner, while Agnes, Theo, Aaron, and Fiona continued working at the kitchen table, Victor took his daughters to the room where the piano was. It was their favorite time of day, when music replaced worries, when they could simply exist in the present, connected by the melodies. What are we going to play today? Victor asked, sitting down at the piano. Mommy's song, Kiara asked, settling down next to him on the bench. Again? Victor smiled, affectionately touching his daughter's hair. You asked for the same thing yesterday. It's because the fairies like this music, Helena explained seriously. They protect the house when we play it. Victor exchanged a glance with Rose, who watched from the doorway with a knowing smile. They both understood the psychological protection mechanism the girls had created. The fairies represented safety, protection against fear. Then let's call the fairies, Victor agreed, placing his hands on the keys. The melody, soft and nostalgic, filled the cabin. It was a composition Victor had created especially for Anna when they discovered they were going to be parents of twins, a piece that began with hesitant, almost fearful notes and gradually opened up into a celebration of joy and hope. Helena and Kiara closed their eyes, letting themselves be lulled by the music. Victor watched their little faces relax, the day's worries dissipating like mist under the morning sun. At that moment, despite all the threats hanging over them, he felt an unshakable certainty. He would do anything to protect that fragile peace they had found. What Victor didn't know was that miles away in the mansion he once called home, Olivia was meeting with Marco and other allies, preparing an attack that would threaten not only his custody of the girls, but their very physical safety. We can't wait for the courts, Olivia said, pacing nervously around the elegant office. Victor has connections. He has public sympathy as an artist and a widowed father. If we let this go to trial, with all those melodramatic stories the girls and that meddling governess invented— What are you suggesting? Asked Marco, leaning back comfortably in a leather armchair, a glass of expensive whiskey in his hand. Beside him, Luca, the accountant, seemed visibly uncomfortable with the direction the conversation was taking. A more straightforward recovery. Olivia paused, staring at them with determination. We know where they are. The cabin by the lake is isolated with few neighbors. A quick operation overnight. Are you talking about kidnapping? Luca nearly choked on his drink. That's a crime, Olivia. It's not kidnapping to recover children who are under my legal guardianship. Olivia dismissed the concern with a gesture. The preliminary request was accepted. Technically, I have as much right to them as Victor does. Even so, Luca insisted, to break into a property at night to take the children by force. No one mentioned force, Olivia interrupted, her voice soft but menacing. It will be a discreet operation. The girls will be asleep. When they wake up, they'll be home where they belong. Marco smiled, a gesture that didn't reach his calculating eyes. "And what do I get out of it, Olivia? I've already risked my reputation. What's left of it? Helping with that story for the press about Victor's mental breakdown. Your reward will be significant. When the girls are back and Victor is legally declared incompetent to have custody, I will assume full control of their career again. And you, Marco, will be my executive producer for all future projects." Marco's eyes gleamed with barely concealed ambition. "Including the rights to the previous catalogue?" "Everything. Victor Allianz will just be a name, a signature on contracts that we will manage." Luca stood up, visibly upset. "This has gone too far. I helped with financial information, with locating properties, but this is criminal." Olivia approached him with feline steps, her voice lowering to a menacing whisper. "Sit down, Luca. You're already in deep trouble. Those little accounting manipulations we did with Victor's records, I have it all documented. One word from me and your career is over, if not behind bars." The accountant paled, letting himself fall back into the armchair. Olivia smiled, pleased with his submission, and turned to Marco. "We need to act fast. Before that investigator and Victor's doctor friend formalize the abuse allegations. Once this enters the official system, our options are dramatically limited." Marco nodded, already calculating possibilities. "I have some contacts. Discreet, efficient people, not directly connected to me. Or you." "Perfect. I want the girls back in this house within 48 hours at the latest." What none of them knew was that Agnes Sallin, with her years of experience in criminal investigations, had already foreseen the possibility of a desperate action on Olivia's part. While they planned the kidnapping, she discreetly organized surveillance on the lake property, ensuring that Victor and the twins remained safe. The battle for the girls' safety was about to reach its most dangerous moment, with unseen forces moving in the darkness, preparing for a confrontation that could forever change the fate of that fragmented family. Night fell over the lake, enveloping the cabin in a blanket of silence. Victor gazed at the dark waters from the veranda while the twins slept, finally feeling safe after weeks of constant fear. Judge Felipe's decision had been favorable. Victor had been granted temporary custody of his daughters, and Olivia was legally barred from approaching them. But victory did not erase the scars. Helena would still wake up startled in the early hours of the morning, checking to see if her sister was safe. Chiara continued composing her melancholic melodies, channeling into music what she couldn't express, in words. "Emotional wounds take time to heal," Fiona had said on her last visit, "but children have an extraordinary capacity for healing when they receive consistent love." And love was what Victor offered in abundance now. He had definitively cancelled his international tours, reorganizing his career to compose mainly at home. Each morning began with piano music, each afternoon with walks by the lake, each evening with stories about Anna, keeping alive the memory of the mother whom the girls loved so much. Rose stayed with them, her constant presence a pillar of stability. Theo visited regularly, monitoring the twins' physical and emotional recovery. Agnes ensured Olivia faced the legal consequences of her actions, gathering irrefutable evidence that resulted in her conviction for child abuse. Faced with the evidence gathered, Marco and his accomplices accepted plea deals that kept them permanently separated from the Allianz family. 6 months later, on a golden autumn afternoon, Victor organized a small musical performance by the lake. Just close friends, Theo, Agnes, Aaron, and a few neighbors who had become part of his new community. The twins sat at the piano that Victor had installed on the extended porch of the cabin, now transformed into a permanent home. Helena began, her small fingers finding the keys with growing confidence. Chiara joined in next, adding unexpected harmonies. Victor watched, marveling, when he recognized the melody. It wasn't just any composition, but a variation on the last unfinished piece Anna had written before leaving. The twins had found the sheet music among their mother's belongings and secretly worked to complete it in their own way. When they finished, the silence that followed was almost sacred, broken only by the gentle clapping of hands and the occasional emotional sigh from those present. Victor embraced his daughters. Words were unnecessary between them. That night, as they walked along the lakeshore, Helena said something that Victor would remember forever. "Dad, I'm not afraid of the dark anymore." Chiara, holding her father's other hand, added, "Because we went through fear together." Victor simply squeezed the small hands in response, his heart overflowing. Looking at the starry sky reflected in the tranquil waters, he knew they had found their way back, not to the life they had before, but to something new and equally precious. Music had returned to their family, not as a lament for what they had lost, but as a celebration of what they had regained, each other. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope that Victor, Helena, and Chiara's journey has touched your hearts. For more moving stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. The power of music and family love is a theme that transcends borders and continues to inspire. Leave a comment telling us which moment of this story touched you the most, and let us know if you have witnessed the transformative power of art in your own lives. Until the next story, which we promise will be as captivating as this one.